Hi, welcome to Spotlight Series at the Silo. I'm Jennifer Bartram-Schmitt, and today we have with us Patricia White.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So Patricia, you're an actress. Tell us a little bit about your career.
Sure. I will tell you, I think we were kind of talking about this before. I was mentioning to you that the reality of my life is that I don't earn a living as an actress. I am or was a teacher for 25 years in New York State. I taught English high school to 9th and 11th grade. And
That helps your writing.
It helped my writing a great deal, studying the classics over and over, backwards and forwards, up and down for 25 years in a row helped a lot. And my work basically that I got paid to do, where you're an actress, was stand-in work, background work. And I did do some things like a Spam commercial for the cooking meat.
Okay.
And, there's been some public service announcements for voiceover work and things like that. But for the most part, I think maybe what most people might not say is that acting is very intermittent. You've got lots of people vying for the same roles. I went for an audition down in the city for Harry Potter. I don't remember the title, but it was the Harry Potter one with the ring. And there were over 200 people at the call. They were seeing equity people first, which was nice. But there are so many people vying for these roles. And there's so much talent out there. And there's very, I guess, little, I don't want to say little opportunity, but there's little opportunity to get consistent work. And for me, that's been my greatest challenge. So what I do to stay active, to stay fresh, is to do community theater. I just got cast in Calendar Girls, being directed by Terry Sagady over in Brookfield Theater, and I'm looking forward to that. Do you know anything about the show?
Fun show, right?
It's a very fun show. Yeah. It's a story about a woman named Annie. Her husband, John, passed away, and to raise funds to buy a new settee for the hospital, they decide to pose a la natural. And the calendar does very well. And it's just as light and fun as that is, it's really about the relationships between these women and the camaraderie and the bonding and what it's like to be a wife, a mother, and to be in your middle age, over 50, and still having that youthful spontaneity to you. And that's in the play. So I'm very excited to work with these people. And I've never done a show at Brookfield Theater before. And I'm just looking forward to it.
It's a nice little theater.
It's a great theater. Nice. Beautiful, beautiful. So, and there's lots of great theaters just all around Connecticut. So many talented people. It's unbelievable. I just saw Amadeus over at Newtown. I was blown away. To me, I was telling somebody, it reminded me of Equus on Broadway with, who's Harry Potter?
Daniel Radcliffe.
Daniel Radcliffe. I mean, that's how superb the acting was. And this is our community theater. These are just people who love to perform and work with other people. And it's such a nice community is the way I'd explain it.
So you enjoy very much doing community theater, of course, and it keeps up your chops and is fun. How do you supplement your income, though?
I supplement my income. Well, like I explained, I was a teacher, and then last year I taught at a middle school here in Connecticut. And what I'm doing or hoping for in the not too distant future is to be able to supplement my income with the writing that I do in addition to the acting. I had written a movie called Victims that is a drama that I produced myself, and it was an ultra low budget film, and $100,000 is like a no budget film. Even though it sounds like a lot compared to 72 million, it's actually quite affordable. But, to try and just come up with that amount of money to produce a film, to get the locations, to buy the props, to buy the costumes, to get whatever it is you need to produce was, took a phenomenal amount of work and time. And people always ask me, well, what are you doing next, Patricia? And I don't think they recognize the amount of time, energy, and effort that goes into any production.
Yes.
I'll just speak to something that I wrote in the past. This is a musical called Hearts of the Hollow. And I was watching Jonathan Kruk perform a oral rendition of the story at the old Dutch church in Sleepy Hollow. It was, around this time of year. It was very festive and everybody went there. And I was watching him and I was starting to picture some of the scenes that he was describing. And I was picturing Katrina walking, telling Brom to go stuff it kind of a thing. And I was like, wow, this would be fun if they did little vignettes showing Ichabod, going after the children with a school whip, or at least looking threatening. It's a family show.
So it sparked this whole new idea.
This idea to write Hearts of the Hollow, which at the time was, I think, Ichabod, I called it. And Ichabod's taken. And so are a bunch of other titles like Hearts of, Sleepy Hollow.
It's such an old story.
And then I went ahead and wrote the draft. And a few years ago, when I say a few, I mean 8. I took it off the shelf because the Right Stuff, which is in New Rochelle, they were holding a competition out of the Westchester Arts. This is when I lived in New York. And it was to write about a fictitious event or a real event or about an author in Westchester. It had to be from Westchester County. And I thought, this is my chance. And I pulled it off the shelf and I edited the heck out of it. And I had some friends help me. And literally at 11:57 p.m. the night before it was due at midnight, I submitted it. And it was a finalist in Tutti Bravi's productions. And it won a $500 grant to help with the next step, whatever that would be. And in this case, it would be to make the music, because this was a musical with no music. And
So you wrote the script? You wrote the book?
I wrote the book. Mm-hmm.
And did you write the music as well?
I did not. I was one of the 3 people who wrote the music.
You're a co-writer of
I'm a co-writer. The essence of it is I am learning to play the piano, but I do not have the extensive skills that a composer and other people have, artists. So I hired someone to collaborate with me, and we did a demo of all of the songs. And then that demo was given to a composer, and the composer turned it into what it is now, which is this gorgeous Sondheim-esque song score. And there's 21 original songs, and they're fun, and some are romantic, and some are a little frightening. And we produced this show back in Carmel, in the Whipple-Feely Chapel. Now, if you go inside the Whipple-Feely Chapel, it looked like Ichabod's schoolroom. And when I walked into it with a gentleman named Chris Ruthven, he's the director of Putnam County Parks and Rec, I went up there and asked him, because I was actually looking at where Tilly Foster Farm is. I was like, oh, I see tents up there. Maybe I could do the show there. And I noticed when I went on the site that in the bottom right-hand corner, it said Putnam County Parks and Rec. And I'm saying, is this a restaurant or is this Putnam County Parks and Rec? So Chris calls me back and he says, how can I help you? And the long and the short of it is, he said, how about under the gazebo here? I said, no. Too exposed to weather conditions. We can't control this environment. How about this beautiful farm? Yes. Oh my gosh, this farm would be perfect, where they hold the fesh every year and the kids dance inside. He said, how long do you need it? I said, 4 months. He said, no. You can't have it that long. He said, how about the chapel? I plotzed when I walked in. I was like, oh my God, this is where Ichabod would have taught. This is exactly the environment. This is an 1850s chapel, authentic. And they were fantastic, and they helped. They put in some bathrooms. They updated it so it was for safety. And then we took out the pews, and we put in a stage, and we put in chairs. And, it took a long time to gather the talent. We had to bring in talent from New York. We had to house them on the green. We had to bus them back and forth to rehearsal, and there was no backstage area. So we had to rent a mobile mini to have this whole backstage area. And it was just, my husband and I worked very, very hard, and the cast was phenomenal. We had a great choreographer, a great director, great musical director, great actors, and we were very blessed to have a great cast and crew. So, but the point is, we were sold out at the end. However, it lost money because at $25 a ticket, we got a grant for about $30,000, and that wasn't nearly enough to cover the expenses. And that's just the reality. And I think that was, to my point before, could this make me money? Yes. But I need to find a director or producer who will back it.
And yes.
who's looking for a musical that is, I don't want to say it's a Halloween musical. I can't, even though it's so apropos for the fall and Halloween, it could be done at any time, So I guess we'll have to wait to see if this becomes something that goes forward. I believe it will. I believe it's just a matter of finding the right person.
Mm-hmm. So anyone out there interested, how do they reach you?
pwhitewrites@yahoo.com.
Okay.
Or just Google Patricia White, Hearts of the Hollow. There's a web page. It's www.hoth.com.
Okay, great. That sounds really interesting.
It was fun. It was tons and tons and tons. Let me tell you, every other day I was having a nervous breakdown, and it was worth it. It was worth it to see that dream come true. That this is, I held up that playbill and I was holding up 13 years of work. 13 years of work is what it really took. That's just the reality that I think people, again, who look at any kind of a show, whether it's a Showtime series or whether it's a film, they're looking at this final product thinking, when are they going to start the next season? And I get excited too as an audience member. I'm like, okay, when is the Gilded Age? When is the next season? I want to know what happens.
Especially when leaving a cliffhanger.
Yes. Or like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's like, hurry up. I want to see what's going to happen next. And I think, what they don't see is the amount of people and time and work and money that goes into it.
Yes.
It's just extraordinary. And I was trying to explain it to my students like this. It's a watch. You ever open up an old-fashioned watch with the, all the components touching each other, where one is touching the other? So they're not touching each other necessarily, but they're overlapping in little parts. And without one piece working, the other pieces don't move. But they're all in and of themselves separate components working together to tell time. It's the same thing in production. So you've got the sound people, you've got costumes, you've got lighting, you've got gaffers, you've got grips, you've got crafty, you've got actors, you've got literally dozens and dozens of people on a
all
set.
working together for the end result.
Right. And if I was on a set once and I was going to touch one of the props or something and I was reprimanded, please just let us do our job. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was just trying to move the bag of chips, And I was doing, remember I was telling you like some of the ways to supplement income is to do stand-in work.
Yeah.
I did, I was Patricia Arquette's stand-in for Escape at Dannemora. And
fun.
yes, I learned. I was making my film victims congruently with this when we weren't shooting. I was back home shooting scenes of victims. So anything that I could take as a lesson in the professional world, I did my best to apply to my film. And that was whether it was treating my crew as best I could, or whether it was trying to make sure that there was continuity in every scene. So it was taking place in the 1980s. We filmed a scene where there was a TV, like a flat TV up in the corner of the bar. I said, nope, we're going to reshoot this whole scene. And that day, for me, it was $1,000, which is what people spending, crafty on drinks in a day. But
yes.
But
for me, it was important. Out of the moment.
Right. It was just so important to me to get it right. And
I understand that.
And I had so many constraints, and it was, you can only have 8 people at a time in Westchester County Airport if you're going to be filming up here under this budget. You cannot have this, that, and the other. And so we would ship people out into the parking lot and then bring in 2 more people because you can only have a maximum
of how many. A lot of organization going on.
There was. And it was, like I said, at the end of a 16-hour day, I would get into my car, and I'm not exaggerating when I say every bone in my body ached. And I'm getting emotional because I was absolutely exhausted. And all I can think of was, I cannot wait to go back and do that again tomorrow. That was awesome. And it's just, I knew that was what I wanted to do with my life, just writing and acting. Acting is the thrill of getting up there and, you give to that audience and then they give you their attention and applause. And it's such a great symbiotic
relationship. Yeah.
Such a rush.
So when did you know that acting was what you wanted to do? What was your first glimpse of when you were a kid, or?
I don't know. There's no moment where I go, oh, I want to be an actor.
No aha moment that you can remember?
I think I grew up, I think I knew I liked it when it was my Holy Communion. I think I was 8 years old, and my mom and dad invited all of the relatives to come over. And my dad had one of those Super 8 cameras, and I had a microphone. I mean, it looked like right out of The Price is Right. It was kind of like this long, and I'm walking around interviewing all of my relatives, asking them questions, and just being a real smart aleck. And I loved being on camera.
You were a talk show host.
I don't know what
that
I was.
day.
I just knew I loved it. And then I was very, very shy. Believe it, as much as I talk a lot and
It's
I'm
surprising, but
extrovert, I was very, very shy, very, very insecure, very unsure of everything from the way I looked to the way my voice sounded. I was terrified to sing, terrified to speak. I just had stage fright. And I went to college at Iona College and I joined the Players, and that helped me because I got cast in a lot of the productions there.
it's interesting that you would have even tried out for a show having been that shy and introverted.
Believe me, it was hard.
So there must have been something in you that knew this was the way to go.
I guess I would just say that my heart felt like it was in the right place.
Yeah.
And I love teaching too. And that's what was tricky. What happened to me was the dial, if you will, to perform got tuned up, and the dial for teaching got tuned down. As much as I appreciated it and was grateful to have it, it's an honor to teach, to teach children. And it's a very draining, people are like, oh, you're out at 2:30? I'm like, says you. Is that what you think? Oh, and you get summers off. You have a part-time job. I'm like, listen, this is the United States of America. Quit your job, become a teacher, and then come talk to me at the end of the year. And let's see your attitude changes. That's what I have to say about that. And it's wonderful. And it's very, very, it's hard work, and it's fun, and it's rewarding. And so is writing, for that matter. And I love writing as much as I love acting. I think I love writing more because you get to, when you're the actor, you have to do what the author says you have to do because it's printed on that page. So this sounds egotistical. So you can't change anything they've done, no matter how much you want to. And even they're like, no, this scene could be better. And God, that came out wrong. But maybe not. Betty White said, or somebody said, if you're pleasing everybody with what you say, you must be a very boring person. So yes, even the professionals could have written some scenes better. Okay, there, I said it. I'll get over it. And I guess I hope to be able to write as well as I'm talking about in the not too distant future with a series. Like, another way to try and get money is to write a series for like a Showtime or a Netflix or an HBO or a Peacock or an Amazon Prime or any one of them. Can I tell you the story of how I hope to make money someday?
Sure, as long as it's PG.
This
is a family show.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's a PG, but unfortunately, it's a serious subject matter. Let me rewind the tapes. I wrote Victims with a gentleman named Dan Calvisi of Acts 4 Screenplays. He was tutoring me, mentoring me, teaching me. I didn't know how to write a screenplay, and he stepped me through the process. This is in addition to taking classes at the New School in screenwriting and going to writers' workshops and all of that. That's like tertiary. You need to have someone who's looking at your work saying, yes, no, remove this, change that. This is too long. You don't need that. You said this here. Get rid of this scene. All of that.
Well, especially when you're new, I would assume you.
I don't know what I'm doing.
You need guidance.
Absolutely, we all need guidance. We all. I don't think anybody knows the job when they walk into it. I think they learn it as they go, and then they make mistakes and get better at it. I think that's
the hope.
That's the hope. And my hope is not to make any mistakes on this next one. So I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm thinking that this gentleman whose name was Dan Hoffman was actually Dan Calvisi. And I'm reading along, and people were kind of singing Dan's praises about what a great mentor he was, what a great teacher he was, and how much he helped them. And I thought it was Dan Calvisi. So I wrote, yes, Dan, you're so nice. Thank you so much. You helped me write my first script. I'll never, I so appreciate you, whatever I wrote. And
wrong Dan?
The wrong Dan. So the other Dan gets back to me. He says, it was so polite. He was so sweet. He was like, I'm sorry, Patricia. Could you refresh my memory? I'm not exactly sure what I helped you. So I felt like the biggest jerk. But I said, I'm so sorry. I mistook you for the other Dan. Forgive me. I said, but how serendipitous, because you mentor people, you teach people, and that's exactly what I want to learn. I don't know whatever that je ne sais quoi is, that thing, that structure thing, that element, that scene, that chemistry, whatever it is, I don't have it, and I need it. And I would love to be mentored with someone and kind of like knowing what I know, go from here. And so he's like, well, normally I have students take tests, but I see your IMBD, because I was telling him I did Victims, I did Blossoms of Faith, I did Following Phil, I did the musical, I did short films, and I won some awards, blah, 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 blah. He's like, oh, then don't worry about it. You don't have to take the test. I said, no, give it to me. I failed the test.
Oh.
He gives it to me again. He said, try this. I fail it again. I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I failed twice. And maybe I shouldn't be bothered. This is just a joke. And he said, no, Patricia, just know that we're probably going to have to work a little longer. And I'm going to have to teach you some basic things that other people probably know who would normally start with me. So we spend a year learning about genre, plot. That's all we do. I'm like, when am I going to learn something? He's like, genre, plot, log line.
Wax on,
wax off.
Be patient, be patient.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That's exactly what it was like. And at some points I was like, when am I going to write something? It's been 11 months. When am I going to write something? So finally, he's got me to the point of writing log lines, which are basically explaining who your character is, what the problem is, why it's impossible for them to resolve it, and how it gets solved. That's a log line.
Okay.
And so I had written several, and he nixed about 50. So then we brought 8. He likes 8, 3, 2, 1. And it was a horror movie that I wanted to write, essentially about a young boy who lives with his mother, and the mother's torturing him, and I'll just keep it the PG, and he gets his revenge. And he said, no, you can't do that with just the 2 characters. You're going to have to have siblings. So I said, okay. Now the siblings join with him in forces to, overcome the mother. And he said, this reminds me of a book I read. And I said, oh, what's that? He turns behind him. There's a big bookshelf, and he pulls the book down, and it's this book. It's Whatever Mother Says by Wensley Clarkson. And it's a true story about a mom named Teresa Cross Knorr, who unfortunately murders 2 of her own children.
Oh, God.
With the aid of her 2 sons. And it's the story, true crime story by Wensley Clarkson. So I read the book, and he said, Patricia, why don't you reach out to Wensley and ask him if he would be interested in, letting you option the book. And whereby you would have a couple of years to research more and write the series and try to get it pitched and made. And I was so excited and at the same time terrified, because I'm not a WGA writer, and I didn't know if I had, for lack of a better word, the talent, the wherewithal. I didn't know if I could do this, because this is writing, this is professional level writing, and I was an amateur.
But did he feel like you had what it took? Okay,
he said, I was moving towards intermediate, I guess is the best. I mean, I want to be honest with what I am, and I'm not a professional yet. So that's my dream.
Practice.
That's right. Well, God knows I have to, all I do is rewrite stuff. I hand it, he's like, nope, hand it back, nope. How about this? Nope. How about that? Nope. I'm like, oh my goodness. But so a couple of weeks ago, remember we talked about, I said the time it takes. So when people say, oh, Patricia, what's your next project? I'm like, well, this one, but it took 5 months just to come to an agreement in, negotiations, going back and forth and communicating. But I wanted to say to you specifically about this book, although it is about the fact that this mother did kill her 2 daughters with the aid of her other children, it's being told from the youngest daughter, Terry's perspective. So the mother is Teresa, the youngest daughter is Terry. And the reason it's so important to tell it from Terry's point of view, or with Terry at the heart of it, is because Terry tried to get people to listen to her, to tell them that the murders were committed in 83 and 84. Teresa was not convicted until 1995. And that's because people didn't take Terry seriously. She was a woman, she was uneducated, she was poor, she had drug problems, domestic violence, and she also was engaged in prostitution. So for all of those reasons, the people that she told did not take her seriously. And the ultimate interesting thing to me is that she was watching America's Most Wanted. And when she found out that she could call in and report the problem directly to law enforcement, that's what she did. And it was because of the help of a wonderful gentleman named John Fitzgerald, who is no longer with us. He promised her, I'm going to help you, and he did. And I'll let the series tell you what happened. And I'm so excited to be writing this. We're working on the pilot and the outline for the series. So if this happens, it will take approximately 2 years working with Dan. And I'm so grateful to Wensley for agreeing to let me do it. And all three of us are super excited. So there's that. And I'm hoping that will erase 3 years that I'm not earning any money because that's how long it takes to create and write and make. And I think that's why the WGA writers get paid as well as they do, is because the studios realize you're not working for 2 years. You're researching, you're writing, you're developing your characters and
you're
your
not
stories.
punching in your time clock and putting it in your
No.
hours in that kind of way. It's a whole process. It's a long process.
Or you'll watch other shows and start studying their Bibles and then start just seeing patterns of the evolution of, your opening scene, your turning points, your acts, and you're learning. And it's very humbling to not know what you don't know.
And then hopefully you know it, and then you find something else you don't know, and you keep
that's right.
growing and evolving. And
I think that's what that's about too, even in acting.
I think so.
Because you're going to reach a character or a scene, or you're going to work with somebody who forces you to grow. And I think that's what it's, right? I mean, we're all here to learn and grow, right? Isn't that what it's all about?
That's what life is all about.
I think
Absolutely.
so. Yeah.
And the arts, and yes.
And what a nice way to express it. So.
What do you like about living in the New Milford area as far as the arts? I know you spoke a lot about the local theaters that you really love.
I love a lot of things. Let me start by saying things like, although it's not specific to New Milford, TheaterWorks is, right? TheaterWorks is really a beautiful anchor in our community theater. And there's Brookfield Theater, there's Newtown Players, there's Sherman Players.
Yeah.
There's so much wonderful community theater. And then the other day, so I love the community theaters, and I love places like the Silo, where you can be an artist in resident, you can be experimenting, you could have a stage reading, you could be practicing with your music or your art form, and being able to share that with the community is amazing. And to have a forum to come to and to share that in a non-for-profit setting, and it's a safe space for everybody to create and share, and that's not easy when you're an artist because you're vulnerable. You're saying, look at my writing, or listen to my music, or look at my art, or look at my acting. And it's yes, you're proud of it. It's your baby. And at the same time, you don't want your baby to be rejected or criticized in a way that you don't want to hear. Maybe
Right.
people won't tell you that, but I will. Don't reject my baby because it's crushing to the ego. So what else do I love? I was at Pulcinelli's the other night or the other week, and I kept noticing this gentleman, and his name is Robert Keating. And we just started striking up conversation. I said, I noticed I've seen you in a few places, and turns out he's a book author and an artist, and he's here in New Milford, right? And he has his art at the art gallery by the railroad. I don't know the name of it, the Railroad Art Gallery, I guess, something like that.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure.
It's okay, but there's an art studio right across from, I guess, the Iron Rail restaurant. It's where the railroad station was, and there's art in there too. And then he's an author of 2 books. So it's just fascinating to me that there's so
much talent
Yes.
in this little town and the surrounding areas people don't realize.
And this is a mecca for film. It really is. You've got Pettibone, which would act as a super awesome base camp. You've got cooperation, like it's not terribly, terribly difficult to shut down a street near the Green. Maybe on, what's the main drag? Route 7, it would be tough.
Yeah.
But the local streets, the local parks, and then you've got the historical buildings, right? So it's beautiful and it's bucolic, and you've got Candlewood Lake. So you want a boat scene? You've got the lake. You want like a creepy old house? You can go to the Green.
We have those.
Right. So what else do I love?
Bank Street Theater.
Bank Street Theater. Oh my God. Tuesdays, $5. Come on. You can't beat that. So you go in, you have popcorn, you watch a great movie on a huge screen, and it sounds great. And the chairs are so comfortable.
They are.
They are.
But not so comfortable that you fall asleep during the film.
No. I've never fallen asleep during a Bank Street Theater movie. And we'd love to go. I mean, I think we've been to, in the past 2 months, about 5 or 6 shows there. My son just went Tuesday. So we're constantly, he went Friday. had a new girlfriend. So he was,
Oh, well,
he's going to kill me for saying this.
That's a place to go.
He wasn't afraid to open the wallet now, for the show up. We're not just doing Tuesdays. That'll be when we're dating for 2 months. Then I can.
That's when we get more serious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then we could be more frugal.
Right.
You got to impress at the beginning. So what else? I love, that's it. I love everything about New Milford. And the people are warm. The people are welcoming. I moved here about 3 years ago full-time from New York. And
you're still close enough to New York that it's not a big deal to go in when you need to.
right. I mean, I was, interestingly, I was on the train. I went to this audition in the city, and who did I run into? But a fellow New Milfordian actor. And I was like, it's you. He's like, it's you. And so.
You weren't both up for the same role.
No. He was cast. I was not.
Oh.
What are you going to do?
That's how it goes sometimes.
Yes, it was fun though. The audition, it was actually funny because they were closing out the building. It closed at 7, and they were such sticklers about be early, be on time, be here for your call, da 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 da. And then they were taking so long with all of the auditions, and they had to drag us across the street into a public park to finish, which was really unorthodox and kind of cool,
It's kind of
but
strange.
also not cool. So. We didn't get out of there till 11 o'clock at night, and that was not fun. Yeah, we didn't get home till like 1 a.m. from that audition. So, but I'm glad he got cast. I'm happy for him. So,
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today.
thank you very much.